Hi, welcome, welcome. I'm so glad you've joined today. I'm Kelly Pitts with Create with Kelley, and I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator in Lubbock, Texas. And I have been a demonstrator since 2005. So I love it. Paper crafting is my passion, and I loved this weekend. I was flat worn out after our virtual card retreat, but we had tons of fun. The weather didn't cooperate too much with having my friends Tanya and Eileen come over the second day, but at least we were together the first day to do the crafting that Stampin' Up! Set up with a wonderful retreat. It was just incredible. We learned tons of techniques and tips, and it was amazing. So if you missed out, you could still do it. You just couldn't do it live, but you would still hear all the live presentations. They're going to hook you up with a Facebook group that it's a private group. And once you purchase the retreat, you'll get a link to that group that has all the videos that will show you how to make each card. And you won't feel as rushed as we were trying to keep up with doing it live. Tanya is a really fast stamper, and she was not able to totally keep up either. So it was really a lot of information packed into a short amount of time. So it was a lot of fun. We paused on a couple of them because we couldn't get everything going for all of them. So that's what you would do on your own if you purchase the kit from me. I have a link in the video description for YouTube. They won't let us do that in Facebook, but I'm glad you joined, whether you're watching live on Facebook or live on YouTube, or if you're watching today or later on as a replay. We're thrilled to have you. So please make a comment. Let me know you're there. Tanya, I'm glad you're watching. These are cards number 1, 2, and 3. I'm just going to do them in numerical order, not in the order we did them at the video. And I'm just going to give you an overview of how we made them. And Tanya, please jump in if you remember something that I do not remember from how we did this retreat. But it was worth the money for the investment for the retreat. You got a special stamp set that is for the retreat only, exclusive to the retreat members. And then you got the Forever Florals stamp set and dies that are going to be released to the public in March with our March online exclusives. So if you're a demonstrator, you can order this now in the pre-order. If you're a customer, then you can order it in March. But it comes as part of this retreat. And you get this, and you get packets of two-tone cardstock. And let me just show you. This is all the stuff. I mean, I have all this still left that I could make more cards with. But it had all the instructions on the back of the designer series paper. You can see here the little scissor mark. And when you cut it, according to the prep video, it showed you which cards that piece of paper went to, that size. So that was amazing. It was a great way to do it. If you are doing this retreat, you need to prepare yourself that it takes a half a day to prep everything. And then it really took me a third day to finish everything that they did in 2 days on the retreat. I mean, they were hopping. So I'm just going to show you some of the techniques we learned, kind of what we did on each card. We're going to start with card 1, and I'll switch the camera over. We're going to go solo on that one. Whoops, wrong one. We'll switch to this one. Good grief. There we go. Now, this card, all the cards were made with 8.5 by 11 basic white cardstock. And I really like the thick cardstock better. So if I were making this on my own, I would go ahead and do thick. And let's see. This card has some of the two-tone cardstock. They said it was Silver Sea. I mean, it's not Secret Sea, but it looked a lot like basic gray. And the two-tone cardstock in the kit had half of the light and half of the dark that the two-tone usually does. So instead of giving us a sheet of each, they gave us one sheet that was printed half and half, which I thought was clever. But we went in and just stamped. This is kind of a polka dot stamp. And I hope I have those in here. That was this little stamp that I don't know if you can see very well. And you just go along and stamped the polka dots on the Secret C and paste that on. And then with this piece that has a lot of cloud cover, it's a cloud cover pattern. We took the die for this, that when you cut it out of regular paper, it looks like this. Okay, so that's the intended purpose. But they went through and really gave us a lot of ideas of thinking outside the box on how to use this full die, which I'll show you the die itself and kind of how we did this on the cloud cover piece, that cloud cover pattern piece. Here's the die, and you can see that we took the die and just put it on one end of that paper that was about 4 by 5.5, and ran that through the die cutting machine like that. Then we took the other end, or the same end if you wanted, and on the other end of the paper we ran that through the die cutting machine. Okay, so this is a detailed die, and when you do the whole thing, I recommend putting wax paper between the die and your cardstock. So that's what I would do. Even if you're doing half like this, you'll have a lot less of this to punch out. I do need to go back in and punch out all those little release holes there that I haven't done. I just die cut that about a minute ago for you to be able to see the white piece. You can tell I've got little wax paper strips falling out everywhere that cut out when you cut the die. But that's what we did there. So both ends, kind of a creative way to use this die instead of having it like that, where you would have this coming across all the way. On this one, it pretty much would have worked, but this way it gives more room for the focal point because you have just the detail on the sides. Okay, then we took some Stampin' blends, and I'm just going to show you, we're just going to stamp on a piece of scrap paper here. I'm going to stamp right here and show you how we did this. I'm just going to show you one of the flowers instead of the whole bunch. Oh, I could show you a little bit of both so you can see a leaf too. Watch this happen. Okay. We're just going to do this in Secret C. And I love the fact that they did use Secret C as their neutral instead of using the black, because you don't have to have a black outline on cards. You can have any color you want. So let me show you what we did. We used Stampin' blends for this. And Darling Duckling was one of the colors, which I am not a huge fan of, or have not been with the ink. But I like the color of the Stampin' blends. So you could use either end. I think I used the bullet tip, but you could use the other if you wanted to go faster. I'm not going to show you the whole thing. I'm just going to do this so you can do strokes like that. But I usually go around and at least outline. Whoops, sorry, I jerked the camera there. At least outline, and you kind of go inside the line a little bit because the Stampin' blends are intended to bleed a bit. That's how they get such a good blending. So whichever end you use, but definitely use the detail around the outside. And then if you want to switch and fill the inside a little faster, just make sure you don't bear down on your point with it straight like that. You want to turn it sideways to kind of get that like you want it. Then we went with the Calypso Coral Dark for the center. And I kind of followed the little, almost like little seeds or pollen or whatever that is in the middle. I forgot what that's called officially. And my camera is not really all that straight, but let's see. That might help a little bit more. Yikes, I hope I didn't take money off the air. No, I didn't. Okay, now we're going to use Secret C for the leaf. And I didn't have my Secret C markers initially, but I did find them on the second day. I had ordered them when we had that big sale on blends. I finally ordered these because I thought, well, they're not going to be that much different than basic black, but they are. you get, they're pretty dark, but they are pretty. You get a little bit of the blue with it. Okay, now if you want to watch the magic happen, we took the, I'm sure this is loud on the air. Sorry about that. I'm trying not to be. This is my old color lifter. Here we go. Color lifter. This goes with the Stampin' Blends. And this technique that we learned was, I've never done this, but you can see that now it's a solid. I'll show you up close, the flower and the leaves. And what we did to get the little kind of dewdrops on there was took our color lifter and made little polka dot kind of things, little dots, to lift some of that color off. And you'll see the magic happen in a minute here. It takes a little bit to get all that off. And you could go back and redo some if you wanted. Make sure you pulled enough of that color off. Go back on the same spot. A little bit more. And I'll hold that up and show you what that does. Can you see that? Now it has all those little spots in there that are like dewdrops. Isn't that cool? That's a fun technique, right? Love it. Let me know if y'all have in the comments if y'all have ever tried that. I thought that was really fun to learn. And the rest of it, we did that on our pieces. And then the big stamp, that was this entire stamp, we stamped it, colored it, and then we cut it in half. We just kind of went along like that. And that's this half up here and this half right here. And then these were individual flowers. Those come in your stamp set as individual flowers too. So you're using this big one, cutting it in half, and then we stamped and colored in both of the smaller flowers too, and used those up on here and popped them up. And then we did the same thing on the inside. If you don't mind it showing on the back, you can do it on the cardstock. If you want to do it on a separate cardstock, which is what I did here, and I just had a little bit different color scheme, but I just went ahead and put that in. But you can stamp it on cardstock and then come back and put it on the inside. They had some die cuts already done because there aren't any die cuts with this stamp set, but they had some die cuts already for us in our kit. And that's what I used here. And I had just kind of used a different color scheme, but I decided I'm going to use that on the inside so that the blends don't bleed through the back. So that's what I did. And I added a linen bow and put some cloud cover embellishments. And we got a whole pack of embellishments that were really pretty in the kit. Like this. They had the Secrecy, Old Olive, cloud cover, and white. So if you have any other questions about this, let me know. But that's card number 1. Yay. Fun. Okay. Card number 2. And this was the way they had it. And we did have instructions where you could print out each card. It was easy to separate in the envelope. So you have all the card bases and other pieces and the picture of the card in each one. And we did do matching envelopes too for all of our cards. Isn't that awesome? Yay. We really did it up right. Okay. Let's go to number 2. And theirs looks a little different than mine. I kind of colored mine a little bit different. You can tell here. This, of course, this is just printed out of what they did, but they gold embossed the flowers and the greeting. You use Versamark and then emboss it with gold Wow Metallics embossing powder. Then we cut out one of those, the white big floral, whatever you want to call it, archway or something, floral circle. And then we cut it apart. We cut part of it off and then used the part in the middle as a stencil. So it's like I've got this right here. And the way they did it, they actually I should have paid more attention. They moved theirs all the way up to the edge so that you didn't have this border here, which would have been smarter, but I was trying to keep up and wasn't taking time to pay attention. But you could move it up like that, where you would be right on the line with the flowers. But I just filled it in with the little texture stamp. This stamp we used a lot. This one right here. And it has words that you can kind of see, but you can't really read them unless you really look. You can see a word here and there. But that texture stamp we used a lot. But I had not done this in a while, if at all. Gold embossing and then stamping over it with that texture stamp, and then going over it also with, we did petal pink on here with our blending brush. So we just took, like, let's say, well, you know how to do that. If you're a crafter, you know how to do that. Use our blending brush on top there over the embossed part. And then I filled in some of the flowers with Stampin' Blends, and you could either use the stamp itself, like we had a leaf stamp that would do the one little leaf at a time, like this. It's just an individual stamp. So we stamped that. I really thought it was interesting that they chose, you don't have to do green leaves all the time, you know, you can do other colors. So we stamped some in crumb cake and then some in old olive. I went back in because I didn't like some of the white, excuse me, showing on the little stems and between the leaves. So I went back in with blends and colored that in, but it's totally up to you on what you want to do with that. And they went to a lot more detail that you can't really see much on here, but they did some stitching. They actually poked holes and went behind with a needle and the linen thread and put a lot of stitching in here. But I just put a big bow instead because I just did not have the time to keep up with all that. And I thought, I'll never do that. But I'm glad I did it on some of the later cards that were a little bit easier. Okay, so on the stencil part, this is the part that I cut off. See, here's the rest of that piece. You can tell that this was once this entire die. Does that make sense? So we're just using part of the die on the front, and then the other part that was left over, you could just color it and stick it inside, but then you could only use it once. So what I did was use the little Post-it notes to mask it off. And like I said, you should go off the page with that like that, and then use your blending brush over it. Does that make sense? Let me grab a brush. Got one right here. So you could just take and dip this in your ink, still dip it off, and then go in a circular motion over the stencil. And there you have it. You can tell I made a little boo-boo here, but whatever. It's a handmade card and it's beautiful. Don't you love all this kind of collage stamping? I just did crumb cake on the inside with my flowers. You could go ahead and emboss on the inside if you want. And I also did crumb cake on the envelope here. I did crumb cake and the flowers on the flap and on the front. You could emboss if you wanted. I didn't take time to do that. But I think that's it on this one. So we learned the stenciling and the collage stamping one on top of the other, and then the coloring over the stencil. I mean, covering over the embossing and then stamping over it too, as well as all of the using a partial die cut and then using a combination of stamps. And these little flowers here were separate little flowers that were already die cut out for us. But we do have that die in this set of dies. If you wanted to cut out more of the little white flowers, you could. So that's one of the dies in that set, which I don't see at this very moment. It was here when I sat down, and now here it is. Okay, so these are all the dies. So that these two little flowers would cut out the white flowers too. So isn't that fun? Yay! We had a great time. It was busy. It was really pedal to the metal, if you know what I mean on that. Okay, then card number 3. I changed this up a little bit. they actually cut a berry burst piece, and then they cut this piece of designer series paper. We had a 12 by 12 of this sheet and cut it for this card, cut it in half and scored it at 4 and 8 out of the 12-inch piece. And then we stamped these flowers, and I'll show you that, how we did those. We had some berry burst. We'll just stamp. Stamp and show here. I'll just do the one little flower. And we're going to use just the same piece of cardstock. We're just going to do it in berry burst, just to show you. And then we used a tiny bit of berry burst on the blending brush, which I'm going to use on this scratch paper here. Tap it off, and then right in the center, we just kind of did a little swirl. So you're not coloring the whole flower, you're just kind of coloring it from the center out. But that's as easy as it was. Isn't that fun? Yay! So that was that on it. And then you could stamp just with that little leaf stamp that I showed you. We did that in lemon lime twist, and then colored in the middle. We have a stamp that would color in that little bitty middle, if you can believe it. I mean, they had every little detail. Here's the little center, so you could stamp the center. Otherwise, if you did this with blends, it would bleed through onto this side. So we stamped all of those, stamp, and then colored that. And on their original card, they had this. They had us die cut this piece and then die cut out of the designer series paper. I mean, who would have ever thought of that? I certainly wouldn't have done it on a pattern like this, but it works. So that was your front, and then we die cut the big floral die out of it and left it attached to the rest of the paper. And then instead of stacking it like they did, they kind of put it where it showed a little bit behind here, but mine wasn't really offset enough, I think, to do that. So I didn't think it showed very much here, and I really liked it. So I put it on my inside center panel, and we used the polka dots with the crumb cake, did the blending brushes on both of those. This was a piece of 5.5 by 8. And it's folded over, so you can see that that's the background and it's the inside here. So it's folded over. So we've got the 4-inch scored at 4-inch, and then here's the other half is right behind this. So that was attached, which makes the front panel sturdy, more sturdy. And then let's see, what else did we do? So I changed that up, and then I went to stamp my name on the back like I usually do, and I stamped it over here. I turned it over and stamped right there. And then when I opened it like this, I thought, dadgum, I didn't want my name to be right there. I meant for it to be on the back. So I changed that up and added these 2 flowers. I just stamped those and did them the same way, covered up my name there. So you can see a little bit of the little scripty part. Oh, well. And then to me, the way I arranged my flowers, it just seemed a little heavy at the bottom. So I went ahead and put another flower up here that they did not have. And then added some Wink of Stella. These little flowers were in our kit. We punched them out of a stencil kind of a thing. Let me show you. Well, it wasn't the heart one, but it was like this, but it had the flowers that we punched out of it. I'll show you that one later. But anyway, that's what we used for those. And then just did a little Stampin' Blend in the middle with Darling Duckling. I actually took Daffodil Delight because I like that better on here, but totally up to you. And then that was the leaf stamp. So we individually cut these out of some of the 2-tone paper, die cut those and added them. So do y'all have any other questions? Yes, you're right, Sharon. Just an opportunity. Exactly. That's what I did. So I changed it up a little bit, but that was the basic card for number 3. And then we did the matching envelope for it too. I did the front and the flap. You can do it however you want. But loved, loved, loved this retreat. It was just awesome. Do you agree, Sharon and Tanya? Didn't y'all love it? Oh my gosh, it was busy, busy. They did a lot of techniques for us. So I think that's it. I'll go back to this. Unless y'all have any other questions, I'll hold the cards up one more time. And I'm going to do other videos showing you kind of what I did for options on here. For the other cards, I'm going to do a video with each 3 cards like this. So there we go. If y'all are interested in participating, you could still do the retreat. It just wouldn't be live, but you still get all the videos we got, all the prep stuff, the kit, instructions, everything. So it was definitely worth the money. Thank you, Sharon. She loved it. Said it was definitely worth the money. She's one of my fellow demonstrators here in Lubbock. So it's good to have her on and watching. I'm thrilled to have you, Sharon. Okay. Well, y'all stay tuned. I'm going to take a quick break and set up, and I will do the next 3 cards shortly. All right. It's probably going to be by 2. I'll probably schedule it for 2 o'clock, and then we'll do 3 more just to kind of give you an idea, give you a little taste of what we did at the retreat, kind of how I changed things up, either because I was rushed or because I messed up or made a little opportunity for myself to make a change. So I don't know why that lighting is kind of freaking out like it is. But anyway, thanks for tuning in. Hope you'll come back in a few and share with your crafty friends. Enjoyed it. Fun times ahead. Thank you, Tanya. Yes, it did seem a little pricey when we first started looking at it, but it was well worth the money. Tanya thought so too. So I think we'll get your opinion after you've seen all the other cards too. Hope y'all will tune back in. Thanks a lot. Fun times ahead. Bye-bye.